While we're free to enjoy the excesses of freedom and democracy, we expect our leaders to be paragons of monk-like virtue. We like to believe that political leaders should always have their minds on the job, which is probably why we seem to be constantly surprised when we discover that they're human beings just like us. Once in a while, in flagrant disregard for the status quo, something magnificently moronic happens, and the world gets a leader it deserves rather than one it needs. Be they the town bike, a raging drunk, meth freak, party animal, somehow through the chance of design, a leader occasionally rises to public office who seriously knows how to party. Thanks to a combination of power, celebrity, and a 24-hour news cycle, the once broad line between public servant and rock star has never been so blurred. While we stress like a bunch of nerds over boring stuffs, such as world finance, war, and feeding ourselves, some of our government officials are using their power and position to facilitate their never-ending personal parties. And not the political kind. And sometimes, while the fate of the world hangs in the balance. Hi, I'm Drew, and here are 7 political leaders who have risen to power on a wave of debauchery and depravity. Bob Hawke, Australian Prime Minister. Charismatic, confident, and progressive, Bob Hawke was everything you would expect a leader of a democratic nation should be. Except, unlike any other world leader in modern history, he proudly held the Guinness World Record for speed drinking 2.5 pints of ale from a sconced pot in 11 seconds flat. Because Australia. In his memoirs, Hawke even contributes his political success to this achievement more than anything he did in his political career, effectively endearing himself to a public who were evidently struggling with their own alcoholism. Again, because Australia. Even at 82, while attending a cricket match, Hawke was goaded into a demonstration of his spirituous prowess and downed a large cup of beer to the pleasure of both onlookers and police without spilling a drop. Hawke confessed publicly in an interview that he was an alcoholic and drank heavily throughout his years as PM, noting that he was never an alcoholic in the sense that he couldn't work. A self-confessed womanizer and adulterer, Hawke was Australia's answer to JFK. Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of the UK. Winston Churchill's love of drink was only surpassed by his intestinal fortitude. Churchill prided himself on his ability to hold his drink while single-handedly defending Britain from Nazi invasion during World War II. Once famously quoted as boasting, "I drink champagne at all meals, and buckets of claret and soda in between," Churchill made no apologies for his alcoholism. On a diplomatic trip to Saudi Arabia, Churchill was informed that both smoking and drinking were forbidden due to religious reasons. He confronted King Ivan's sword, proclaiming that his religion prescribed as an absolute sacred ritual smoking cigars and drinking alcohol before, after, and if need be during all meals and intervals in between them. John F. Kennedy, U.S. presidential pimp. While JFK's extramarital affairs, celebrity parties, and use of narcotics have become the stuff of legend, he has recently been outed for using his political clout and charisma to convince at least one intern to perform sexual favors for both himself and other members of his staff. Mimi Alford, who was only 19 at the time, had a job as a White House intern in 1962. Alford noted in her recent biography that she felt that she had no choice but to comply to Kennedy's sexual advances due to his political power and personal magnetism. And if you thought that sounds a little rapey, later Kennedy used his influence to convince her to have oral sex with his best friend Dave Powers. He would later attempt to press her into a similar situation with Ted Kennedy during a Democratic fundraiser. Alford also claimed that Kennedy first offered and then forced her to take amyl nitrate during a party. Boris Yeltsin, Russian president. Wouldn't it be crazy if a world superpower was headed by a drunken frat boy? 1990s Russia was just that kind of crazy. Although his staff always denied it, Russia's first democratically elected president's love of his national beverage was infamous, and his drunken escapades sound like a bad script for a college comedy. In what could only be the Russian equivalent of a wedgie, Yeltsin would play the spoons on the heads of his staff, even going so far as to once playfully assaulting former Kyrgyzstan President Askar Akayev in the same manner. Former US President Bill Clinton recently revealed in his autobiography that during a visit to the States, Yeltsin was found outside the White House drunk and dressed only in his underwear, attempting to flag down a taxi as he wanted to get some pizza. Silvio Berlusconi, Prime Minister of Italy. Raging parties, affairs with teenage girls, and a political party named after an Italian football chant, infamous womanizer Silvio Berlusconi's service as Italian Prime Minister was like a teenage boy's wet dream. Amidst much criticism, Berlusconi even recruited attractive actresses and a topless model into his political ministry, jokingly referred to as the Berlusconi Babes by the media. During Berlusconi's term, he hosted regular soirees referred to as bunga bunga parties. The former Italian PM would invite many young women, and according to one attendee, they would be expected to provide sexual favors to the guests in return for a fat envelope of cash when they left in the morning. Karima Ruby El Maru, a bunga bunga attendee, was discovered to be only 17 years old after Berlusconi made a call to a local police station using his influence to have her released from custody. The Nazi Party. World domination, mass murder, and uniforms provided by Hugo Boss. Everything about the Nazis was just one big evil party. At least it was if you were lucky enough to join the conga line of sex and excess that was the Nazi elite. And if you were cool with hanging out with morally depraved psychopaths, the like of which the world has never seen before. President of the Reichstag Hermann Goering enjoyed flamboyant clothing, flashy jewelry, and a 20-year morphine addiction. Minister for Propaganda Joseph Goebbels was a serial womanizer. His most famous affair with Czech actress Linda Barova caused him to first attempt resignation and then suicide when his wife asked Hitler to intervene on her behalf. Even Hitler himself was a frequent user of cocaine and methamphetamine. Nazi troops were even issued with speed, with the purpose of increasing their alertness and rousing their aggression in combat situations. Iona Stoller, member of the Chambers of Deputies, Italy. Italian politics in the 1980s was run by a largely male-dominated group of ex-cons and mafia sympathizers. The public yearned for political change. What they got was Iona Stoller, porn star. Previous to her election, Iona was a seasoned actor in many adult films under the screen name Cicciolina, and even co-starred in a production with the infamous John Holmes during his secret battle with AIDS in 1986. Ms. Stoller's election campaign turned into a burlesque show, promoting herself with striptease, sometimes even going as far as using a live snake as a prop. Stoller used her sexuality as a political weapon, overcoming the monotony of political discourse by taking every opportunity to uncover her breasts during public speeches. She was always sure that at least half the population of Italy was looking in her direction at all times. Stoller's campaign was incredibly successful. Even though her name did not appear in them, 20,000 Italian citizens took the time to handwrite her name on the ballots, sweeping her into the chambers of political office ahead of the other 47 Radical Party nominees. It was the only election in the history of democracy where drawing a pair of boobs on a ballot could have been considered a valid vote. Stoller became the fairy porn mother of Italian politics. Her flamboyance and indefatigable promotion of animal rights, sex education in schools, and love for all policies were in stark contrast to the often authoritarian shenanigans of the crooked boys club that was the Italian parliament. Her appearances were only heightened by her habit of revealing her bare breasts at every opportunity, at political appearances both inside parliament and in public. She even took time out from her civic duties to star in a porn film during her 5-year term. During the Gulf crisis, Stoller made world headlines when she offered to have sex with Saddam Hussein if he agreed to end the conflict. She would later make a similar offer to Osama bin Laden, no doubt with the intent of literally fucking their brains out for freedom with her porn star superpowers.